Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are having a great day today. In this video, we're going to do a long-term update on one of the most unique and interesting Stratocaster trem systems. This is the Floyd Rose Rail Tail long-term update. Now, if you guys happen to miss the original install of the rail tail on our Mexican Strat, I'll put a link to that one above. You can check that one out. All the details are there. But long story short, there's a rail that gets bolted straight into the guitar body, and then the trem sits on top of that rail. So the contact area between the trem and the guitar body is absolutely superb. So my experience with the rail tail has been really positive. It's a good looking unit, really solidly built. I think it looks great on a Strat, although not traditional. You don't have the two posts exposed. You don't have the 6 screws that you can see. All the action happens on the rail underneath. But in terms of like the machining and the look, I think it looks really attractive. Now, more importantly than just the aesthetics, performance has been really good. Now, I had a few questions about, the lube that goes on the rail. In the heat of the summer, did it leak out? Is it attracting a lot of dust? Have I had to reapply? And the answer to all those things is it's been perfect. I haven't reapplied the lube at all. I think it's been about 6 months since the original video. It hasn't leaked out in the heat of summer. It just works. It doesn't get gunky. It's retained its total smoothness all the way through the trem. So I can say, in terms of like regular maintenance, maybe once a year you might want to just pop it off and re-lube it. But, in the short term, certainly it's not a high maintenance system. So the question is, would I install the Floyd Rose Rail Tail on a Strat again? Well, in the right scenario, absolutely I would. This thing's well made and it functions really well. Now, it's a dive only trem. For lots of players, that's not a problem. I mean, Eddie Van Halen was dive only on his trem, right? So you can do some amazing and cool tricks on just a dive only trem. But every single one of my other Strats is floating. So I find myself trying to, use it in the same way. And it just takes me 5 minutes playing on it to readjust how I use it. But in terms of like sustain and tone transfer, this is probably the best system I've ever tried. So if you're the type of person that just uses their trem once in a while, but wants an upgrade over the stock stuff, this is a great option. If you're the person who's like, I would rather actually hardtail my Strat and wouldn't want to trem on it at all, this is probably one of your best bets too, because it just sounds better than the stock system. And it's like rock solid. It gets sucked to the top of the body. And like I said before, sustain and tone is awesome on this thing. So really great system for the right player. Now, the playing advantages to a dive only trem system is you can do all your double stop bends and it won't put your guitar out of tune. So if you do, everything's gonna remain in tune because your trem doesn't tip forward as you bend a string. And that's always like the Achilles heel of the floating system. As soon as you bend a note, your whole trem tips forward. And so if you wanna play 2 notes simultaneously while you're bending, it's gonna put the other note way out of tune. So you can't do licks like that. On a floating system, it's just gonna sound horrible. So some final thoughts on the rail tail before I uninstall it. I'm actually going to be giving this one away over on my Patreon page. So if you support the channel over there, you might be the lucky winner. But I would say the advantages are it looks great. It functions beautifully. Maintenance has been 0. So for such a unique system, I wasn't sure, what the maintenance would be like, but there is none. It just works. So that's great. Cons, I would say it's expensive. It's dive only. So that might be an advantage, like I was telling you guys before, or a disadvantage, but it's not like the ultimate versatile trem, right? It's just dive only, but that comes with the advantages of great sustain and tone transfer. So it's either a plus or a minus. And finally, I guess if you had a 2-point Strat trem, you have to drill some holes to install the unit. If you have the 6 screw system, it just bolts right on. Now on the channel, I've been fortunate enough to test out a bunch of different trem units, some with some really unique and interesting features that go way beyond what you would find on a stock Strat. But we've used units from Hipshot, from Blade Runner, obviously the Floyd Rose here, Sophia, some really interesting trem units. But next up is the Vega trem. Now we're going to install the Vega trem on our red Mexican Strat because this one is made for the 6-screw trem system. I think they also make a 2-point trem, but I'm always curious to see, what systems sound great on the vintage 6-screw system because lots of people want to upgrade that. So anyway, the Vega trem is like night and day different from the Floyd Rose Rail Tail, so that'll be really interesting. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. Good luck to everybody over on Patreon. You can check out my tab store, subscribe to the channel, brand new t-shirt store. All that information is in the video description below. Have a great week, you guys. We'll see you next time with a new video.